The Brutally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Starving Artist Brewing. Starving Artist Brewing may be a small speck on Michigan's beer map, but they say big things come in small packages. A brewery who really puts their money where their mouth is, supporting underground artists far and wide. Making delicious beers with the simple belief that you should judge beer, not people. Brutally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. For over 30 years, Rockabilia has been the go-to destination for all things band merch. With over 500,000 items in their online store and collaborations with today's hottest bands, you're sure to find something you love. Use our code BREW10 at checkout and take 10% off your total order. So go pick up your favorite new piece of merch now over at Rockabilia.com. And now, on to the show.
Say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Brutally Speaking podcast. I'm your host, John, and this episode's guest is Lurk from Lambgoat. This was a fun one, always a great time when you're able to get a fellow podcaster in the game on. Unlike a lot of times where, we kind of focus on podcasters being podcasters, I was a little bit more intrigued to learn more about, Lurk and his friends essentially taking over Lambgoat and what the process was like more from behind the scenes. How do you envision running something that's been long-standing while also adding your own flavor to it? And I just think from a business perspective, it's a very interesting thing to me how one decides to come to this conclusion. And then obviously just what does it look like from behind the scenes? Because to me, a lot of people, I think, when you go to something like a PRP, Lambgoat, metal injection, some of these different sites that we all go to, you constantly see comments of people going, oh, why the fuck is this news? Why do you give this person a platform? All these things. And I see those and it just makes me go, well, then you fucking do something. You try. Because I don't think people understand how hard it is to put out something when ultimately the goal is indirectly that you have to turn a profit. It has to be profitable. And, working in food and retail management like I have in most of my life, it's a thing where there are people who will go, well, you need to do this. And you're like, well, yeah, I'd love to do that. However, there's a reason that this happens. And before you can just start making drastic ass changes to something, you have to do something and just establish that you can be profitable month in and month out, that what you're doing is not just a sinking fucking ship. And it takes a lot of fucking work, a lot of thankless work, things like having no life. At one point during this chat, Lurk kind of made the comment, David made the comments about how he has no life. He this is what he does when he wakes up to when he goes to bed. Essentially, he lives, eats, breathes Lambgoat. And I had just left a job. I've talked about, leaving the job I had. And I think even when I had gotten it, that I really wanted to challenge myself to kind of being the guy. I was the general manager of the hat store that I was running. And I loved the challenge. It was one of the first times, one of the few opportunities I'd really gotten to kind of be the person. And I kind of wanted to see how well I could do in that environment. And initially, under the rules that I was given, it didn't work. And I found a way for it to work for me. There were some changes within the company, new district managers, even the district itself split in half. So it became this thing where there was just a lot of change. And I feel like something I learned about myself is you can be that person. You just kind of have to know you got to know what you're doing. You got to know your business. That's something I learned from my time working at Sam's Club. Know your business inside and out. once you kind of learn the business, then it's easier to kind of understand what you need to do to be successful and profitable. And then you kind of move from there, and then it's about building the team around you. And something that I've always prided myself on was finding good people. I have been burned a couple of times. There was one instance at my last job that kind of fucked with me for a little bit, where this person we found out was stealing money and so forth, and it was really tough to feel like it wasn't a representation of my bad judgment of somebody. But by and large, the team I put together did really well. I did very well as an individual for the store, but it required me essentially working 6 days a week. Usually I was working anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day. A lot of times I'd go in on my day off to get something done so I could work uninterrupted on something. And I even I don't feel like it was a bad decision, but I made a decision that a lot of times when dealing with customers that needed work done on we would do customizations for hats and so forth for their businesses, I would give them my personal email, I would give them my personal phone number, and I would text or call these people so they had a direct access to me that maybe a lot of other people wouldn't. So it was kind of hard to leave my job at all times. I was essentially on 24/7. And it caused my personal life to suffer. And having seen that, it was kind of interesting when thinking about wanting to talk to David, that it was a thing where I was like, I know what this process just looked like for me doing this thing, and I just left it. What does it look like for you, knowing that it probably is equally as a time suck in your life, your personal life, that your professional life becomes your personal life because you want it to succeed. You want to be known as the person who was able to take something and make it successful or keep it successful. And I think that is something that not a lot of people inherently want to do. It's not really a great, I don't want to call it a skill. I don't even know what I want to call it necessarily, but I think there are some of us that are just wired differently, that we want to go all in on something almost to the detriment of literally everything around us. And it honestly took my wife sending me a call and sitting me down to kind of be like, look, this isn't healthy for our relationship in your non-personal life. And so I had to step back and find something that worked for what I wanted for a better work-life balance. And I think I've got it now, but I'm starting to see the same tendencies happening at this job where it's like I'm so far ahead of things because I just can't, I'm not good at not doing something, as he literally just messages me right now. But it's a thing where I'm not good at being just idle. In the job I have, in the department I have, I'm a department of one, but I essentially feed all the rest of the working in a screen printing place. I make the inks now. So I have to pay attention to everything that's being booked for the different presses, make sure all the inks are ready, make sure that the inks are in the right quantity. If a bucket's barely filled and it's going to be a big job, I need to make sure that I'm filling that bucket, making sure that it has enough to run for the job. So the presses are just able to run smoothly and not waiting on me. I have since been ahead this last week of everybody. And now I'm going through and reorganizing the ink room and making sure that the multiple buckets of certain inks that we have that we don't need, do they A, match, B, if we are able to consolidate, let's do that and kind of consolidate my room. So instead of taking up a shitload of space, I'm being more mindful of what I'm doing. All of that to say that I feel like when looking at Lurk and what he does, I feel like those kind of same tendencies have to probably exist for him to want to take on something so massive. And one that honestly probably does not give him, from an outward perspective, give him a lot of satisfaction, considering all he's probably getting from a vocal minority is just people shitting on him, shitting on what they're doing. And I feel like that would just be a very thankless job from that perspective. There's just a lot of it that I find interesting. And there wasn't, as far as I know, a lot of information about the process of acquiring Lambgoat. And we talk about some other things too. And all that said, this is a really fun chat to me. I hope you enjoy it as well. I think this is a very inside baseball thing, but it's something that I hope that when you hear it, maybe it'll inspire you to take on a bigger challenge than you think maybe you're able or capable of doing. We are all amazing people capable of amazing things if we just put our minds to it. So without further ado, this is my conversation with Lurk from Lambgoat, and I will talk to you on the other side of it.
You know, there's certain things that I hate spending money on, and when I do, I feel really good about it. Like these beats, because I've had these fucking things for, oh my god, dude, 10 years, and I've like taken them all over. When I was DJing heavily, I still take them for DJing. I still use them for like every fucking podcast I've done. I mean, I ran the ringer with these things, and they're like what, $200-$300 or something like that, and they've lasted a long time. Same with Macs. I hated spending all the money on Macs, but like I keep a desktop for 10 years, so is what it is.
I mean, just speaking my language, like up until I worked at the screen printing place I left and then just went back to, I wore basically a pair of over-the-head Beats, Bluetooth headphones, and then when those kind of shit out on me after like years of having them, ended up switching to Sennheisers because I was like, well, I guess if I'm using something good for like the podcast, I need like good sounding audio. And then finally the small little Beats like in-ears, like the noise canceling ones came out like a couple years ago, and I got those, and I haven't looked back since. These things are so nice.
I got my AirPods, but I keep the AirPods in. And then again, I've had these AirPods for like 3 years.
Apple headphones don't fit in my ears. I have weird ears.
I have tiny little ones. So that's fine, and it's fine. But like I'm astounded that they, like people lose them, and
that's my wife.
They complain about it all the time or whatever. The only thing I maybe complain about is like I don't think the noise cancellation works as well anymore, and it may not be as loud. But that also could be my phone because my phone's a little older too. So, but again, there's certain things that I hate spending money on, and then when I do, and I keep them for a long period of time, I'm like, all right, well, that's just the normal now. Because if I were to buy like earbuds or any kind of whatever, I'd probably buy multiple pairs before they
discontinue them.
Not that, but like I'd pay so much that it would it would equal more than just buying a decent quality pair of something or another and then keeping it for a long period of time. So then instead of just like burning through your cash, you just suck it up, spend the money on one thing, and then hopefully it lasts you longer than if you were to buy other things. Yeah.
It's like this thing, like start up another podcast with some friends, and I use like my old shitty Amazon microphones that we had because I was like, oh, these should be good. And then after listening to how we were doing it, I was like, oh, it just sounds bad. I can't do it. Like there would have been a time where I'm like, it's fine. Now I'm like, I can't. So I bought like two nice things, not as good as these, but like good for what we're doing. And the quality, like just between like the first and like the third episode we just did, like is night and day. And I'm like, oh, thank God. It is weird though, as you get older, like there's certain things like you're just like, of course I'll spend this much on this, but like, I mean, it's funny. This is the most first world problem ever. But there are times when, like, I don't really ever ask for free tickets to anything. Like, typically at this point, I do know a lot of people in the touring industry, whether it's like people like techs, background, like FOH people, whatever, or actually people in the bands. So a lot of times they'll just be like, hey, just come hang out, you and your wife. The few instances where like we're paying for shows, like
you're going, I can hear you.
My wife did that. She bought a bunch of tickets recently for a couple of shows, and she's like, yeah, I spent X amount on between these like 4 or 5 shows. I was like, God damn.
Yeah. But also, like something that most people don't realize too is when like, you or I or anyone in the industry gets free tickets, those are paid for by somebody. They're not free.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I feel less bad when it's mostly like people I know on tour and they're just like, yeah, just come hang out. Like, I don't feel bad at that point.
Right. Well, that I don't think that may be like guest list type thing.
Yeah.
But if I get something from like people in the industry like Amy or any other PR person, those are tickets that are paid for some, by somebody at some level, the band, the marketing or whatever. So that's why there's like a scratch your back, scratch mine. Come to the show, review it, or take pictures, or do something.
Yeah. It's funny, like, because a lot of times though, people will be like, "Oh, what? Like, can I?" Like, I think my favorite was there was a friend that was just like, "Hey, like this person's coming to town. Can you get me like 8 tickets for free?" And I was like, "No, I can't. I couldn't. Sometimes like it's hard enough just to get me and my wife.
Yeah.
Like,
I hate asking for +1.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like I'm married, so like it's sort of a given.
Well, I have like I usually end up going with my. Most times I'll go with JP, who's like my partner in Lambgoat now, but he was like my guy who's helping with the podcast, video, audio guy, or mainly video photography guy. But he's the photographer for Lambgoat for the most part. So he's my +1. So we get like a media pass +1 situation, and he'll go photograph, and I'll just kind of like hang out and shoot the vibe out or whatever. I don't know. He's doing the most work for those types of things. But we all have a role, and my role is not like photos and video.
It's funny.
Who started? Is this it? Are we on?
Yeah,
Like
we're done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're just bullshitting.
I didn't know if you wanted to introduce everybody or yourself.
No, I mean I do that in the intro anyway.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
But no, I like, and it's kind of funny because I think at this point, like Furnace Fest, we're about a month out from Furnace Fest, technically.
2 months.
Is it 2 months?
Into September.
Oh, okay. I mean, I know it's like right after my birthday, but in my head, I just always assume like September. So I'm just like, yeah, it's like a month away. Or I guess it is 2 months. I just always forget August. Like nothing cool really ever happens in August. Because like it's the anticipation for me of my birthday. And then there's always like great tours going around.
When's your birthday?
September 20th.
Oh, I'm 18th.
What year?
83.
Oh, you're actually a year older than me.
Yeah, I'll turn 40.
For some reason, I thought I was older than you.
Well, I thought I was younger than everybody else that we have at Lambgoat, and turns out I'm the old. Well, I think our writer Jake is like months older than me, but I'm older than a lot of the guys that have been at Lambgoat for a while too.
It's funny because I don't know. I assume you listen to other podcasts. Some people don't, though. Weirdly, yeah. Okay. So I've been going away from music a bunch more and just listening to like all the offshoots of like Bert Kreischer and like Whiskey Ginger and like all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So really incestuous grouping of comedians. Mm-hmm. And Bert was talking to someone today, or at least on the newest episode of his shit, and he was like, I just assume I'm older than everybody. And then I realized like I'm not.
I mean, my entire life, for the most part, like starting in school, I was the youngest. Like I went to private school because I was too young to go to public school. And then once you're in the school system, I guess in Florida, or back then, the public school can't take you if you go to second grade. So like I was in grade for private school. And then so I was like 16, 17 when I graduated high school. So
same. Because like because of where our birthdays fall, we're like right on the cusp of being allowed in.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know was a thing either until as I got older. I'm like, everyone's like, I'm 18, I can drive now, or like driver's ed and all that shit. And I'm like, I gotta wait a whole nother like school year before I can do that.
My parents were not about to have me stay home for an extra year, and they, they're like, fuck that. So
it's almost like that scene, Almost Famous.
Yeah.
Wait, how old am I?
Yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, Colin, who's our editor in chief. And he's been not with Lambgoat, but he's been like visiting Lambgoat for 20 years, and he's been writing for Lambgoat for almost a decade. Almost a decade. Reviews and stuff. Oh my God, sorry. I had a couple like an hour ago. And honestly, when I met Colin at Furnace Fest,
sorry, it's just the over the year, not over years. Over the year.
I've been in charge for 1 year, but I mean, I've definitely. I should say years, because when I was doing the podcast, obviously I was very active on the message board and stuff. And I was not that I wasn't active on the message board before. I had been earlier on when I was in a band in the early 2000s, spamming the message board for like my band and shit. But I met some of the guys offline, which is interesting. I've met a lot of the guys. I don't want to say who I've met because they're kind of infamous in Lambgoat history, but Colin's one of them. He's been writing for us for a long time, and when I met him, I just assumed he was like 5 to 10 years older than me, and I just found out the other day he's a year younger than me. So I was like,
well, I guess like there's sort of an interesting thing to me because, the reason I brought up Furnace Fest was because it almost sort of marks this interesting transitionary period, I think, for you and the site, or I guess it was the kind of the impetus of you all deciding like for it to be sold, for you guys just to buy it, to take it over, and now here we are, essentially a year later.
2 years later.
2 years later.
Yeah, it took a year. The whole process.
Oh, okay.
A year.
Okay. I think it's interesting because like something that intrigues me is just how things happen, and I know you've talked about it a little bit, on your socials, and I think even sporadically, sort of in some of the podcasts you've done, where people will kind of ask about, like, oh, I've been like in your Scott Lee episode where he's like, oh, Lambgoat's been a great supporter of the New England Metal Hardcore Festival for blank amount of time, and you were talking about previously having seen something about Converge. So I mean, it's a thing where obviously there's a history with it and in the scene and so forth. But what I think is interesting is just kind of how does one or a group of people decide, like, I think we can do this, and I think we can do this and maybe elevate it beyond, because essentially me coming from like food and retail management, it's the kind of the business side of things where you're looking at metrics and you're figuring out numbers, and you're kind of really, something I've been talking about on the show quite a bit is roles, and how do people fall into certain roles. And so to me, there's a sense of, and this is where I can't really put my finger on it, but there's almost a sense of like something that doesn't exist in a lot of other people, where you're like, I want to take on this, and I want to become almost an entrepreneurial type mind, where it's like, let's go with this and let's see. And to have other people involved, I think is, it can be scary, it can be exciting, and I think speaks to, again, the roles of like, you're kind of seemingly the de facto leader, and then everyone kind of has fallen into, whatever their skill set is better at. But kind of, I guess, walk me through the beginnings of how deciding. Because I think that's interesting to me.
Okay. I'll kind of I don't know how in depth you want me to go, because it would take a bit, but obviously this is a podcast, and I understand that you don't want to speak and you want the guests to speak a lot, because I say that.
Oh no, I speak all the time. I'm like Bird, but I'm gonna.
What I say is like, no one wants to hear me fucking talk. So if you feel like you're rambling, keep rambling. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Keep fucking talking. So
I'm gonna get another water while you talk, but I can still hear you.
Not a problem. Yeah. So how it started. So obviously, I mean, that I started doing the podcast with Lambgoat for a number of years, like 2019, early 2019, I started doing the podcast, and that, I've talked about that before. Just how I got that was I saw Alex use the Lambgoat Twitter account to interact with like Adam 22 of No Jumper, and then I just kind of made some fucking snide remark and was like, hey, where's the fucking podcast? And then that started a conversation between Alex and I about, if you needed help doing a podcast, I have experience in that. So one thing led to another, and yada, yada, yada. Ipso facto, I started the podcast, and I was the person. Unknowingly, I didn't realize that I was the first person to like show their face basically for Lambgoat. So like all of a sudden, everyone just associated me with like owning Lambgoat or being Webby, which was far, far, far from the case at that point. And at this particular point, when I started doing the podcast, like, I had a vision of what I thought Lambgoat was, right, from the visitor side. And, you see Lambgoat, and I've been visiting Lambgoat since late 90s, early 2000s, in that time frame. I also had my own website where I would like go to Lambgoat and the PRP and like take news of bands that I liked, and I would post about it there. And that was the hrn.com. And you can go to the Internet Wayback Machine and look all that shit up. But that was like early 2000s. So I was already going to these websites then, and I was already very familiar with them. And I had like this weird passion for this like stupid life ruining music that we're all a part of. But so one thing led to another, and I had this view of like what Lambgoat was. And then I love Alex to death, right? So Alex, old webmaster, I don't have anything wrong or anything negative really to say about him. But there are things that I think that he didn't consider or know, right? So there are things like he lives in a more rural area of the Northeast, and he doesn't have the ability to like interact with people on a more face-to-face level. He's all kind of the like Wizard of Oz, man behind the curtain thing. And so when you're that guy, you can kind of, I don't know, like your vision of what maybe you've created. And again, he created something in the late 90s, and he did it as a hobby, and he didn't realize it was going to catch on, and it caught on. And from Lambgoat, like you have other websites pop up 10 years later or so, like Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, and all the other outlets that are kind of like doing their thing. Whereas like in the early days, Blabbermouth was, and I'm could be wrong, but I think Blabbermouth is really owned by like record labels, and it's kind of like that's why they have all the information first. That's why they post all the time. That's why they post about a lot of other shit. So a lot of other outlets, when you get into the nitty gritty of things, a lot of other outlets are owned by a conglomerate or a record label or the industry, right? So there are outlets like out there that are like that. But in the beginning, it was like Blabbermouth that I remember. Blabbermouth, Nosebleed 17, the PRP, the TRC.net, and Lambgoat. And then afterwards, they started getting popular, I guess, and other websites started popping up. Granted, Metal Injection, Metal Sucks, and all the other ones kind of took it to another level, right? And whatnot. They went more of a business route. And again, I kind of assumed that Lambgoat was doing the same thing behind the scenes, but clearly they were not. Lambgoat, honestly, I'm surprised it even lasted as long as Alex did it, because it was just him for the most part on the day-to-day operations. He would have people like writing and submitting like pieces, reviews, and stuff like that. But even if you paid attention the last like handful of years, decade, the reviews and everything else kind of dropped off, and he mainly just focused on the news part, because that was the only thing really driving traffic and advertising and stuff like that. So I think he kind of didn't really understand the grand scope of how deep Lambgoat is embedded into everybody's, like, everyone knows about it in the industry,
right?
Whether you're in a band, a publicist, a record label, in the industry, people know about it for good or bad, right? They either hate it or love it, and that is what it is. But I started seeing, when I was in the podcast, when I started doing the podcast and interacting with people in person, I started seeing like how deep that was, like, and how people would receive me when I showed up for shows, which was mostly positive. Now there's definitely been some negative reactions when I introduced myself to bands and stuff like that. And, I just take it for what it is. It's not me. I'm not Lambgoat. I mean, I am Lambgoat, but like, it's not, I'm not taking it personally and stuff. Like, people have their own views because they've had, poor interactions with Lambgoat, or they've had issues with the comments and stuff like that. So, one thing leads to another, and they just don't like us, and that's fine. But Lambgoat has a duty to cover all sorts of artists and bands and things that go on in the metal and hardcore world, and that's just, there's good and bad that come with that. So that I'll leave it at that. But I did the podcast for a number of years, and I was in contact with Alex on a regular basis, and we kind of talked about where Lambgoat was going and where Lambgoat could go, and I started realizing that Lambgoat was definitely not anywhere near what I thought it was. Right? Like, I held it up here on a pedestal. It's definitely, it was like, as far as traffic was concerned, lowest tier of all the outlets you probably know. Right? So major outlets, I should say. Like, there's smaller outlets like No Echo and stuff like that maybe are in a smaller niche, like niche demographic or niche genre. But as far as like something that covers, a wide variety of things, like the PRP, Metal Sucks, Metal Injection, Blabbermouth, out of all those, we were the lowest one in traffic. So we would decide, and a lot of that has to be because like Alex didn't have a mobile website for 10 years after like websites went mobile. So like one of the things is when we started talking and started doing the podcast, I was like, we have to get mobile friendly websites, because you're missing out on not only advertising money, but like traffic, because no one's going to want to visit your website and gotta like fucking, pinch and zoom to navigate the damn site. So long story short, in the time frame of him building the current model of Lambgoat, we had gone to Furnace Fest that year, and by this time I had done like 100, or not 100, but I had done the podcast for 2 years or something like that. And again, love Alex to death, but we had talked back and forth about how to approach Lambgoat and how to move it forward and grow it and things forward. And at this particular point, I have no financial stake, there's nothing. I'm just a guy helping Alex out. I never got paid for the podcast. I never, I was doing it for shits and giggles because I like podcasting, I like talking to bands, and I did that prior in my, earlier life. And, I got cool, sweet perks like going to Furnace Fest and a couple other shows here or there, but that was basically it. So it was basically for the love. And then at some point I got kind of like disenfranchised by it. It just seemed like the fuck am I doing this for? Because it's not really. Am I growing Lambgoat? Am I growing the podcast? You know, like the podcast was growing, but it's like not anywhere near like, you know, Hard Lore is or like, you know, anywhere where I'd like it to be like the Rogan podcast. But so when we were in Furnace Fest, you know, it was a cool time because it was like Nostalgiaville. And we went to this bar and after the first night, and I just was like, we were drinking and I kind of like just was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I don't know if I want to keep doing the podcast. And I was like, I just don't know what I want to, because it's not, you know, like it's not going anywhere. Lambgoat's not going anywhere. I was like, maybe I can pivot it to, because I always thought like, okay, well, I'll just start this podcast and then jump lily pad somewhere else, right? Like lily pad to another thing or radio or whatever, right? Like I'll just do that. And yeah, I got really disenfranchised and I brought it up with those guys. I was like, I just don't know if I want to do it, yada, yada, yada. And Dylan, my current partner, was like, why don't you just buy it? And I mean, I never even thought about it at that point. And maybe I had, you know, on a pipe dream situation, like with
you got Randall.
Yeah. With like JP and I would talk about like, oh man, it would be so cool if it was like ours, right? Like, and we did everything. This was like after the first year doing the podcast, because again, there was things that we wanted to do that we didn't want to spend money to do because it wasn't going to benefit us. And then like, you know, we were very limited as to what we could do. Like we had no access to any of the website stuff. And, you know, like I would want Alex to post the podcast on the website, and it never, you know, like it never was on the website. And it's like, well, how are we going to get people to the website? I mean, to the podcast and blah, 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 blah. So it was a whole this, that, the other thing. And yeah, he just brought it up. And I said, I don't think you realize how much it takes in general to run that. And I don't know how much time, effort. And again, we all have jobs. Like we all have other jobs at this particular point. Like we're in corporate working jobs. And I was like, we don't have enough time for that. And I was like, I don't think we have enough money for that, and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, that started the conversation. And again, that was like a drunken situation. So on the way home, a couple of days later, you know, I was like, before we dropped Dylan off in the airport in Atlanta, before he flew back to San Francisco, I was like, hey, I know we were like drunk the other night, but like scale of 1 to 10, the four of us in this car, you know, like what are we serious about that? And, you know, we were. And the original group is not the same group that is currently, you know, ownership group. It's changed over over that year because people had like, you know, my brother-in-law was going to get involved, but then he moved to Atlanta and they're having a baby, and they've also bought a whole nother business. So like he's not involved. The other person, Stefan, who was at that original conversation, also got a better job and had a kid. So he's no longer involved really. JP, Dylan, definitely involved. And then I have another partner who is a business partner of mine in our other company. But yeah, just that started a long process of then discussing it internally between us, what we would like, how we would approach it, and this, that, the other. And then, I mean, like, I had to come to Alex and ask, like, what, you know, because he wasn't looking to sell it or anything like that. You know, he was perfectly content, just like fucking posting news until he died, you know, and like, which is fine. But, you know, I had such vision for what Lambgoat could possibly be, because once you realize like how the brand reach and awareness of it is, how far and deep it is, it's like, dude, we have to capitalize. So yeah, it took about 9 months overall after the initial conversation, or, you know, 2 months after the initial conversation to bring it up to Alex, once we had all of our ducks in a row, kind of. And then we started going back and forth with him. And yeah, I mean, we came to an agreement, and, you know, I fucking talked him into doing it somehow, some way. And yeah, one thing led to another, and now paperwork and checks have been cashed. Paperwork's been signed, checks been cashed a year ago. And Alex is still around. He still owns a small percentage of of Lambgoat for a number of years, and he's still kind of around for us to kind of like, you know, consult with, because there's like we don't want to change Lambgoat overnight, you know, or drastically in general. So there's things that I kind of will run by Alex and just kind of get his opinion on, and I'll do the same with Colin too, because Colin has been around for a longer period of time and interacted, especially on the message board and, you know, just comment section and shit like that. So like these individuals know, you know, Lambgoat more in and out than I may have, because there were years where I didn't visit Lambgoat. I would be out of the hardcore metal world and I'd come back and I'd, you know, touch base every now and then. But you know, like 8 years ago, I decided to just go full on back into like hardcore metal. And I actually made a conscious decision before I even started the podcast that I was like, I enjoyed my life at that particular point when I was doing the website. I was also in a band at the time, and the reason I stopped doing the website was because I was in a band. But I always would reflect back on that time of my life as like one of the funnest things, because like as a 17-year-old kid, I'm like talking to fucking press people and bands and you know, and meeting bands in the new metal world that I was fucking giant fans of and shit. So like I had that taste early on, and I always knew how easy it was to attain it. And so I made a conscious decision to go back to that. And I don't know, a year, maybe like 18 months later, the podcast. So it's weird how things work, like I mentioned earlier, but it might be because I put it out in the universe, you know, and fucking everything aligns. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how everything came about. And as to the other question as to like, how did I know that I could, like, that we can grow and do all this stuff? You obviously have confidence, right? Because I've experience in this digital world, like digital marketing, design, and all sorts of like ads and stuff like that. So me and my business partner, Zach, have a background in that. Dylan has a background in design. He worked for Cartoon Network. He worked for Adult Swim. He also went to Full Sail like Webby did, but he worked for Turner Broadcasting Network, which again was the Cartoon Network and Adult Swim stuff. Then from there he went to Zynga and he designed a lot of shit for Farmville in the early days when they're on Facebook. So like he's from the startup world, you know, all that shit. And we just have these ideas, right? They're grandiose, like pipe dream ideas. And I mean, it's literally just putting the time and effort into seeing those ideas out. So like there's things I can't mention, but I will mention some things on here that we haven't mentioned publicly, but there are some things that we have done and we've worked on that we never thought that we would be able to accomplish, and that we did in a very quick period of time. There's a lot of things that we did that we had to do because it was without getting too in depth of it, but some of our like income legs were like taken out from under us over the course of the, you know, at the beginning of us taking it over, and we had to pivot and figure out how we were going to survive. And like and now income's more than what we have. You know, we left the Blast Beat Network, which is owned by Metal Injection and Metal Sucks, and those entities were bought out by a corporate entity, and so now they're owned by the Orchard, who owns another plethora of other things, right, in the industry, and that's like kind of Sony as well. So like all these websites and outlets are owned by giant corporations, and yes, they do report on news and stuff like that, but if you can understand, like they also have some kind of bias now that they have to promote within and agendas, and I would assume, I don't know, there's no like memo that has come through that it's been leaked that I know that they have to focus on certain things. But you know, like if you're getting paid from one thing, you can't really shit on that thing. You know, you can't
bite the hand that feeds.
Yeah. So Lambgoat's like independent, and we're going to remain independent for that fact. Although we do have relationships, you know, with all these labels and stuff like that. And there are going to be times where like an album or something will report on something that's not positive, but it's just part of, don't shoot the messenger. Right. So like, that's that. But I mean, we didn't know. We had an idea, and we were driven to do so. And like, once we took it over, the investment, you know, we don't want to shit on the investment. So we want to do this full time. We wanted to do Lambgoat full time. We didn't want to work in corporate anymore. We wanted to do Lambgoat full time and fun stuff full time. Dylan and I at this particular point are full time. We're the only two full time employees for Lambgoat. That's not saying we're balling. Like that's like eating ramen and never going out, you know? So like, but that's just what you have to do to kind of lay the groundwork. And the groundwork's been laid by Alex, but like, you know, we have to build, that was all. It was just like the foundation. We have to build the whole fucking house now. So, we've built a lot in the last year, and we started an ad network to replace the Blast Beat network. That wasn't really a conducive relationship for us once we started really diving into that. That was something that Alex had kind of done and didn't look back at for 10 years, a decade. So once we looked at it, we kind of like, that's not going to work for us. And when we approached them about it, that wouldn't work for them. So we just kind of went our separate ways. And I don't know, there's a lot of other stuff going on with that, and people have left and whatnot. But yeah, so that was one thing. We established an ad network. We've partnered with other websites like This Day in Metal, noecho.net. Ghost Cult is also a new member as of last month. And so now we do the same that Blast Beat was doing, but it's more beneficial for the outlet because, whatever. It's more beneficial for the outlet. That's what I say that. So yeah, we want to grow, and we want to work with these outlets and grow them because we understand that the audience for heavy music is quite small in general compared to the other audiences out there in different niche demographics. So, Lambgoat can only touch X amount of people that listen to hardcore and metal, and there's only X amount of people. That's a finite number. That's not the same as like who listens to Third Eye Blind, 3 Days Grace or Slipknot, right? Those are giant different demographics. So like our goal is to like, how many people can we grab from like that mainstream rock world and drag them down to our level? Dog shit, ruin your life music. But yeah, I mean, that's basically the end all be all. Like we didn't know. There are things that have happened along the way that let us know that we're on the right track. Like we were approached from someone to get purchased, and I was like, nope. But that let us know we were on the right track of what we were doing. And so we're just head down grinding. And I'm saying like Dylan and I work all day, every day. Our social life is no more. There's no social life. I'm literally at this computer all day long. You have to be the first to report something. You want to be up to date on everything. So you're scouring the internet all the time. And it'd be nice at some point to have a news team, and we're working towards that. So we're working towards getting enough revenue to where we can like sustain employees and like be more attentive, have more coverage, and just be more, be able to like Dylan and I can be able focus on growing us in other aspects because we also are doing that. And so, right now it's Dylan and I running a lot of stuff. Dylan handles a lot of back end like code stuff with our intern Gabe, and then he also handles a lot of like back end business deals. Like we have some other things going on. Not that I don't handle business stuff too. I just handle a lot of because I wake up. He's on the West Coast, so I wake up a lot earlier than him in general, and which is a bummer also because I stay up with him at night. So I'll be up until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning talking with him, and then waking up in the morning to post news. But so we all have our roles, like you said. Like I basically handle a lot of everything that's on the website. 90% of that I've put up there. Dylan will help out for some news things if he's not doing much. But for the most part, we have our roles, like you said, and it just works. You know what I mean? And like I didn't know working with my friends would be difficult or easy. Some of them aren't as active as Dylan and I, and that's totally fine because we all, again, have our roles, and there will be a time when they will have to step up and do a lot more stuff. But those individuals also have day jobs too. So they don't necessarily have the ability to be as free as I or Dylan. So, I mean, we're one step at a time, but it feels like we don't get anything done. But then when you take a step back and look at the year, it's like, holy fuck. And a lot of people have commented on what we've done in the year. So yeah, the ad network's one thing. We've brought on board writers. So we've got writers now again, reviews. I mean, we did like 70 fucking reviews last year, and I don't know if anyone's noticed, but like there hadn't been 70 reviews done on Lambgoat in maybe like 8 years. So you know what I mean? Like all together, so we've really tried to step up like content. We've really pushed in the direction of like video content. We've got a lot more of that coming up. We're working a lot on some stuff. We've partnered with the Fourth Media, William Saunders of Fourth Media. He's basically like our head video guy. I forget his title, but it's on the fucking website. It's like executive director of video or something like that. So, we're working on a Dallas Taylor Maylene documentary about his accident and stuff like that, which we've spoken about before publicly, but we're in the thick of that now. So hopefully we can get like a trailer out for Furnace Fest and start, getting that back up and or getting that going. And we got so much other kind of video stuff we're working on too. It's really exciting. There's also something when does this come out?
So let's see.
Before Tuesday?
Oh yeah. No, this isn't coming out before Tuesday.
Okay.
It's probably gonna be out in like 2 weeks.
Okay, cool. So I'll talk about it. So Tuesday we're announcing that we are relaunching the Lambgoat Records. Well, not relaunching. It's always been around. It's just been like super dormant since 2008. But we're gonna, reactivate Lambgoat Records. So you
don't want me to shop this to like the PRP then?
What? I mean, they can fucking know about it.
Just kidding.
We can know. But yeah, so we're gonna reactivate Lambgoat Records, and in doing so, we're going to release 2 EPs. One, both legacy bands. One is Pariah, the Nebraskan metalcore band. They have an EP coming out. What is it called? That's fucking horrible. Vindictive? I forget about. Hold on, my bad. Anyway, sorry, Dustin and John and everybody like that. I fucking don't know. I think it's like all right, whatever. Vindictive, Vendetive. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, it's a great EP. By all means, you should listen to the songs. I mean, there's a reason why we're putting it out. But yeah. So and again, like I played in a band that played with Pariah, so it's really weird, right? That we're linking up 23 years later. The other band everyone probably knows about, 18 Visions. We're going to be putting out their EP later this year as well. So we're announcing all that Tuesday. Who knows? By the time this episode comes out, pre-orders may be up for both of those. But that's one step, that we're taking. We're going to get just fully involved in the industry. We're going to make Lambgoat what it should be. You know what I mean? Like. And can we do that? I have no fucking clue, John. But you know what I mean? Every day is a new day. We wake up and we just fucking take a step forward. There are days when we take steps back. You know what I mean? And there's days internally where Dylan and I or Zach and I or all of us will butt heads, and it is tough, right? It is tough because a lot of stuff, we all have different opinions, right? We all have different opinions, and I'm not like the main guy, right? Because we all have roles. I am technically the majority, like I would have majority stake.
Does it say shareholder?
The company, yeah. But those guys all have the same valid opinion to mine. They're all my good friends. We're all like best friends, So we do argue a lot. And there's been things where we've gotten in hot water in the past year, and or we thought we were in hot water, and says how do we go about navigating this, and how do we as a brand and as a company and blah 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 without losing what Lambgoat is. Does that make sense?
It does. I think that's the interesting thing about it, and why kind of so let me rewind just a touch.
That was a lot, bro. That was so much. It was like 10 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Someone will finally be like, holy shit, John isn't spending all his time, the hour and a half or whatever, talking 60% of it. But no, there's something interesting in there about it, because I think, when you talk about, or I actually a lot on here talk about branding, and like mainly since most people I talk to are bands, or even like with Scott Lee, where it's like you started New England Metal Hardcore Festival. It just was a festival because you used to book bands, you used to book shows, and this was the next logical progression of said thing.
And a lot of that was just word of mouth, internet, MySpace shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't really like you didn't have to and no one knew what they were doing. No one knew they were marketing. I didn't know. Marketing. Like but that's where all of my love for that kind of stuff came, because I was on MySpace, or I had my own website, and I just wanted idiots to come to my website. So I would be hustling that shit, but I didn't know it was marketing. I was just an annoying kid.
But I talk all the time about how a lot of us, it's funny that you've hit on a few things, like pivoting is such a huge thing I talk about, where it's like don't quit or abandon this thing that you've worked so hard on. Sometimes you get to a point where it's just a pivot point where you go, okay, this isn't working. What do I need to do now? What does that look like? And then you find your pivot point, and then now it unlocks new avenues. You find more success in this other thing, this other facet of it. So to me, what's interesting though about this is, the crux of the first question was, how did you know that you could do this with a group of you and that you could all work together and succeed in the idea you had for this thing? The other side of it that I think is more daunting, that I don't think a lot of people probably would ever think about, is like, this is an established brand. So we have to stay true to this thing, because if we deviate from it, it's like, I mean, again, it's kind of like food. It's like anything. It's like, okay, well, I can't just wake up today and all of a sudden now we're like, it's like, what really fucking blows my mind, and I'm kind of using another like movie as a reference, but like Airheads, it was a rock radio metal station, whatever. And then like in a week they were going to go soft rock. Yeah. And it's like, you can't just boom. Now it's something different. Sure. And like,
go ahead. No, finish up.
But I was going to say, like, I think there's that side of it too, that I think is really important to me, of like understanding the thought process of going into it, because it's like, you can have all these ideas of like, I want to do this and we want to do this and we want to do this. But then at the end of the day, you got to come back and go, but how true is it to what Lambgoat is and what makes the thing? And can we push it forward in these other interesting directions that we want to, while still maintaining the core of what this thing is? And I think that's such an interesting cross section of thinking, that it's like, I don't know that a lot of people, and I don't feel like, at least in this day and age, I feel like so many people are like, what's the thing happening right now? And another thing, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about listening to all these comedians and all these other podcasts, is, Bert was talking to a dude that's big on TikTok right now, that's a comedian. And he was like, the thing I feel like that's the problem with some of these Instagram influencers, these OnlyFans models and stuff like that, is they're only thinking about now. They're not thinking about what do they want to do? What is their goal for like a year from now? And how to like setting goals and achieving metrics and making sure that you're able to like keep yourself accountable.
They want to cash cow and cash out and maybe move on to something else. But to kind of like, how do I explain this? So
this is also going to be a very in the weeds episode.
I mean, no one's going to listen to it. I get it. But,
oh, I love it. This is the kind of shit I love.
I get it. But like, I was talking about, who was I just talking? Tyler from Capra. And at some point we started talking about fucking trading cards. And I was like, we're going to lose everybody, but let's just keep fucking talking. So, but to answer your question, the week before we actually, like, everything's done, everything's agreed, we're going to sign papers in a week, or maybe like that week, I full on have a panic attack, like full on panic attack. Like, it hits me that what Lambgoat is as a whole and what it actually means. Can I maintain that? Can I not ruin that? Right? Like, can I do, is this the death of whatever Lambgoat is? And I'm sure to some people they think it was, right? But I freaked out about that. And I literally, like, I was with people and I was like, I gotta go for a fucking walk. So I took a walk for like an hour and a half and just like fucking freaking out. But it was really daunting and scary. And after I took over, the message board like hated me. They hated me prior to that, whether they did in real life or it was just like stick, whatever. But they all left. So like we lost a good chunk of traffic immediately. So right out of the gate, we are not only the least visited website, but now all the fucking curmudgeons that are like really infesting the website have literally got left. So like the traffic went down to like super low. That being said, I freaked out every day the traffic was going down, because like, again, we just invested some money into this, and now all of a sudden it's not really panning out like we had thought immediately. But Dylan and I credit Dylan a lot for like talking me off the ledge a lot, because I'm more emotional and I have I ADHD and all this other fucking like insecurity type bullshit, and I don't want to ruin not only like financially some stuff, but I don't want to ruin Lambgoat's like name, brand, or what it stands for. Because like Lambgoat is an online museum for the last 23 or 24 years of anything and almost anything and everything that's happened to something in the hardcore and metal scene that, underground band, like you're not gonna know everything about fucking Ghost on the website, or Five Finger Death Punch, or any of these bigger bands. But a lot of the underground bands, we've covered a lot of everything that's happened from their inception to ending to a lot. So like it's an online museum, and like I really, 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 really take that seriously, and that's how we look at it going forward too. But yeah, I mean, we're changing Lambgoat clearly. Like clearly, Lambgoat's going to change because it's new ownership. We are trying to maintain as much original Lambgoatness as we can possibly do it. We're not trying to change the voice. We're not trying to like, clear up a lot of issues that people have with Lambgoat or what Lambgoat does. Like it's going to stay Lambgoat. That's what makes it Lambgoat. The only thing we can do, or the only thing we can, like we've instated policies for certain things, and those are things that aren't there. We've hired moderators. Like that's something that wasn't there. So like we've changed it in a way, in positive ways, but also negative ways for some like long time fucking visitors, that can't say the weirdest shit online anymore. But I mean, like you can still comment anonymously. It's moderated a little bit more than it had been in the past, and it wasn't not moderated before, but it was one person moderating it whilst running the entire fucking thing. So it wasn't as good. But now we have like a paid moderator. That's one thing. But the plan is to go as big as we can as Lambgoat without covering Slipknot, Five Finger Death Punch, Disturbed. Like we want to grow the underground. And there comes a time in my I think about it like, can I grow the underground too big? And then it's not. Like, do we grow this whole movement? Because like Turnstile is bringing in a lot more hardcore, fresh blood. Kids are getting more into hardcore, and they're listening to Turnstile, but that'll funnel down to 100 Demons for some people. You know what I mean? So like they may not go any deeper than Turnstile, but a good chunk of the, a small chunk of them will.
Right.
And so we're there to catch those guys and guide them along the way, whichever way they want to go. We want to be able to like, hey, here's some album reviews, here's some interviews, podcasts, here's fucking whatever else content that you want to ingest, And so that's mainly it. Like I worry every day about, what we will end up doing. But I have a lot of faith in the team. I've got a lot of faith in the writers. I got a lot of faith in everything that we have going for us, because it seems like every time that we reach hit a roadblock, we step right over it and just continue going. And I mean, with quickness, it is insanely fast how we can adjust and whatnot. And I mean that a lot of that is probably because again, Dylan and I are full time at this now, and we have been for the last 5 months or so. Like, so what, but again, it took a while to get our legs underneath us too. So like in the beginning, it wasn't like I knew how to run the website. I had no access to the website prior to the signing the paper, other than my account on like the forum or, the comment section or some shit. So, and it just so happened that the same week we signed paperwork, Alex goes on vacation for 10 days. So it's like, he just gave us the keys and was like, there you go. And like, it's like, all right, cool. So it was basically trial by fire. And again, some things happened. We had to like figure out how we were going to fix those and how we're going to overcome those. And we just did as a team. And it's been really fun. And like Dylan and I will talk about it all the time, how much fun we have doing it, even though it is fucking stressful. And every waking hour of every day is spent on, Lambgoat. Like Dylan woke up in the middle of the night at like 4 a.m. because he's like, oh, fuck, I have to do something. And he like got out of bed and had to fucking, go post an article. And then like, oh, that video's not out yet or something like that. So he had to wake up again once the video was out to post it. But it's for the love, you know what I mean? Like, and again, we're not making fucking fistfuls of cash by any means. We are not, it's not a super viable operation right now. But there's things like I was talking about, those cash cows cashing in and out quick. We have been building the base layer of the house. Like, so it took us a couple months to get our feet underneath us to make sure that like we can be self-sustained. We don't rely on anybody else for revenue, for content, for anything like that. We want to be self-sustained internally. That's why we hired people. That's why we, ended relationships and started our own thing. And we want to be self-reliant, and I think we're doing a very, very, very great job of that. And it's only been a year as of this month, so we're a year and 20 days into ownership, and it's like the amount of traffic that we've increased it in the last 6 months, the amount of revenue that we've kind of seen come in, and again, that doesn't go in our pockets or anything like that. That goes right back into the fucking Lambgoat. But it is very motivating, and that is one thing that everyone should know, I guess, is I don't have the answers. Dylan didn't have the answers. We didn't have a roadmap. Like, I even told Dylan the other week, I was like, I wish someone was around just to say, like, hey, you're on the right track, because we're blindly going at it, and we're paving our own way. And it's just been a wild fucking ride, man. Like, and again, you know, interacting with people that you've never thought you would really interact with, being friends with people you never thought you'd be friends with. And, you know, one of those people passed away the other week, Pete. That's probably one of the wildest ones for me, because I'm not going to go out and say like we're best friends by any means. I don't want to say that. I don't know if he'd be upset if I said that, but we're good friends. Like, you know, I had him over at my house whenever he was in town. I'd go see him. We would link up, do a lot of stuff. We would talk a lot via text message, the phone. You know, there's a lot of things that he was wanting to do with Lambgoat, and we were totally on board with. And, you know, at some point, like if you go look at our Q1 albums or whatever, or albums at the end of the year or something like that, he's listed as a staff member, because at that point he was going to start doing like his podcast. He wanted to do like some kind of interview situation. He wanted to start writing a column and stuff like that. And I was all about like getting all that knowledge and bullshit that he had in his head just out, so you know, it's saved for some reason. And it sucks that it's not now, but you know, he was doing so much at the end there anyway. It was crazy, but that was a bummer. And yeah, I mean, it's just been fun the entire time, and it is insane to think where we will be a year from now, 5 years, 20 years from now. And I want to, you know, no one knows what to do or how to do it. Dylan and I don't know what to do or how to do anything for the most part. Like, this is all trial and error, and you just got to do it, man. It's scary and hard, but, and like you were saying, entrepreneurial mindset, you may have to have that, because not everybody is that. You know, a lot of people just want the easy route to where they just go clock in, go home. They can take whatever their job is, hang it up, and fucking veg out, play video games, TV, or whatever, you know. Hey, my laundry's done. Sorry. So they have that, you know, going on, but that, I don't know if I would ever be fulfilled like that. I have like grandiose dreams, and, you know, what I want to be and stuff like that. And I always thought I was a weirdo for that, because it was very hard for me to work jobs, just because like I was not satisfied making hourly or whatever salary that I was making at those times. I wanted so much more and so much more free time. But you'll learn real quick when you start your own business or do your own business, you have no free time. So that's the other thing. Like, you know, there's no vacations, no time off. Every day is Lambgoat Day. Like when we're all at Furnace Fest, you can definitely tell we're at Furnace Fest because we're all there, and the website doesn't really, it's not as active, and traffic drops insanely. But you know, we gotta pivot, and we gotta get a news team, and we gotta get people to fucking fill those roles.
I mean, the interesting thing was, on the smallest of scales, I just kind of went through the same thing where there's a festival here in like literally minutes from my house, people, and I know they don't listen to this. I don't give a fuck saying this. They're like one of the, like when you go to like a DWP festival, or I would say anything else other than this fucking shit show, like it showcases like the difference in levels of what you're dealing with. Like as far as just like the first year I went, I brought my backpack. I was ready to do press. There was literally no media tent. There was no nothing. Like if I wasn't as far along in my doing this, I wouldn't have had any of the contacts or even known who to contact to try to get some of the bands that were on the festival that first year to try to do some press. And after that first year, I realized it's like, oh, they don't give a fuck about like actual like this. All they want is something that's online, something they can reshare, whatever, instant gratification. So last year when I went, I was like, I'm just going to shoot video. I'm just going to like chill out and hang out. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. There it is. Excuse me. And it was a thing where I just tried creating like content like that. But then the thing is like the stages, like it's not that they're so far apart. It's just one's literally directly up a giant hill from the other one. So to get from one hill and get around everybody and do all this shit, like it's so hard to be able to be everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
So leading into this third year, I was like, I feel like I need a team. And so my concept, and I never got any feedback from them, but I think I noticed it was a lot better. Granted, I'm not running a website anymore. Like I used to have a website and I was just like, I'd see the numbers going to it. I'm like, I'm getting more downloads than I am actually traffic to the site. So what's the point? Yeah. But it was this thing where like this year I was like, okay, different approach. I know my wife's going to be there with me. I know my friend's coming in from out of town. I know one of the security guys working, but he's not working like both stages. He's going to kind of work like certain bands. And so I was like, I just want it to, and I was going to work with certain bands too that I was friends with, where I'm like, hey, I'm just going to give you access to my Instagram page and then just fucking go wild, because it'll go to my Facebook page as well. And it turned into a thing where I had enough people just wandering around and myself that it's like most of the day I didn't have to do shit. And what was interesting is typically like my Instagram stories and my reach for the podcast, like the reach usually for the podcast was about like 2,500 impressions or whatever, and then like stories or reels or whatever. In stories I'd get about like 30 people to see them. Mm-hmm. And after that weekend I was up to like almost like I think it was like 6.8 thousand impressions. Yeah. And like each story was getting like almost 120 views. And I'm like, oh shit. So it was like a thing where I was like, fuck, I guess if I just kept posting shit like this, like it would just grow. And I noticed like more people, like, I don't know if they're bots or not, but more followers were rolling in and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I could see how I see a path that would lead to better numbers. Yeah. But I also just saw what it took to get that. And I don't think that's sustainable currently. But that was a like 48-hour glimpse where I was like, I can't sustain that. And it's just not possible. And
to piggyback off of that, it's the same.
Yeah.
Like we will see, we'll see some stuff and be like, okay, we're killing it. Like, and you know, the problem is we have staff, but not enough. Right. And Dylan and I don't have the time to fucking, I mean, like when we post a news item, like if you're posting a news item, there's like things that you have to do after you post a news item. Like you have to share it clearly, because if we don't share it on social, it's pretty much like not going to get traffic for the most part. Yep. And so, we do what we can as far as like that, but then you can't post a fucking like Facebook story back to, you can't post something to Facebook, like a link, like 5 minutes between each other, because it's going to get fucking lost. So then you have to like, okay, fucking schedule this, fucking post it on Twitter. Twitter's different. You can post, you rip it off on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, and also to touch base on like you not running a website because the numbers are, and this correlates with a lot of other people, just stick it the fuck out. Whatever you're doing, not like whatever you're doing, just stick it the fuck out. Like if you like it, stick it out. Don't be worried about the audience not being there. The longer you do it, the audience, you'll create an audience. And don't think that people aren't fucking looking.
They're
fucking looking.
I know.
And they'll never say something to you. They won't ever say negative things. They won't say positive things. They'll keep looking. They won't like or engage with that content. But you fucking better know that when something good happens for you, woodwork motherfuckers come through the woodwork all of a sudden, and then they're like, oh, hey, where fuck you, dude, where the fuck were you at? But I mean, like, it is what it is. So as long as you have the patience and wherewithal to stick anything out, you're gonna do good for yourself.
Well, I feel like the thing is, I had this epiphany a while ago where pre-pandemic I was pulling in like, and I don't feel bad about like some people are just like, I won't talk numbers at all, and I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like, is what it is. I feel like you can kind of see if you look at different, like, I mean, shit, anything on YouTube, you can literally see who's viewed it and all that kind of stuff. Right. So I'm like most of the things are all pretty transparent at this point in day and age. But the thing that was interesting was like, I was pulling in close to like at my best, I was almost like 2,500-3,000 downloads a month. which considering I never dumped any money into it, nothing, like pretty shocking. And I'm not a band dude, so like no one knows who I am.
Yeah.
So I don't have a built-in fan base. So everything is as organic as it possibly could be. Then the pandemic came, and like where I figured the people I was getting, because they're not touring, was infinitely better in the level, and like the show itself I thought got better. But it's funny because like now, like after like in the pandemic and shit, it was like a struggle at times just to even hit 1,000 downloads. And you're like, where the fuck did like 2,000 people go?
Yeah.
And again, you know, no one really ever comments or anything. So you're just like, I don't know what's going on. And I had this epiphany where I was like, you know, when I started this thing, all I wanted was to be where I am now. Like where I had publicists sending me shit. I didn't have to work as hard to get an interview, that I was getting people of a certain level. And I correlated it to being like, okay, if I were a band, I'm pretty much at like a somewhere between like probably 800, 1,200, 1,500 cap rooms. That's a sustainable career. Like you like, and then maybe you get invited to be like a opening on like a shed run or something like that. But like, if that's your career, like look at it. Like I'm almost like the band that came to my head immediately was like, I'm Seven Dust. Like Seven Dust is a career band.
Yeah.
Like everyone, like I'm not saying this from like how people feel about me, where it's like I'm respected and all that kind of stuff. But it's like I looked at them and I'm like, they grind out, they put out something consistently. You know, you're gonna get a good product. And like by and large, no one has a bad thing to say about them.
Yeah.
And I feel that part of it to be true about what I do and me. And so I was just like, I'll take that. Like, that's all I wanted. Why be so bummed that I don't have this thing that I wanted when I should just appreciate where I'm at?
Yeah. Again.
And that was the thing for me where once I kind of had that mindset where I stopped kind of being like, what the fuck? Where'd everyone go? How do I get them back? And feeling discouraged, I was just like, no, I mean, I started this assuming no one was ever going to listen. I started this because I had the love and passion to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I said a while ago, like I found my why again. And to me, like, I think there are so many shows and so many bands and all this kind of stuff that I see come and go by the wayside. And I'm just like apparently your why wasn't you. You weren't the reason that you wanted to do any of this. And it's a thing where like, I joke all the time. Like, you know, sometimes I get negative comments on YouTube, and now that my face isn't all over the fucking thing, I'll just fire back at people. Cause I'm like, who gives a shit? What are you going to do? Not listen to my show? Yeah. And someone was like, commented on an episode. And I think it was one where I only had like 20 minutes with somebody. And like the episode was like 30 minutes because I just was like talking about other shit in the front and back. And they're like, Jesus Christ, guy just like listening to himself talk, fast forward to and then like left a timestamp. And I go, oh, dude, I'm sorry that you had to pay to listen to this. And you went out of your way to click on the thing that you chose to listen to.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, so go fuck yourself. And then I was like, and he kind of like sent me a thing back, like emailed me. And he was just like, dude, you're never going to get fans like that if you just like can't take criticism. I was like, I can take criticism. And I was like, but your thing like isn't valid. Like the whole point of like the reason I was talking initially was just like, this is what happened. Like I lost part of the audio, or the audio wasn't good, or whatever. I don't know. And I go, but at the end of the day, dude, like literally what you're doing is why I started this. So if you think you can do better, fucking start it.
Yeah.
Here I am 7 years later, because it was honestly an interview with Keith at a Warped Tour, like 2013 or something I was looking at.
Buckley?
And this girl was just like, huh?
Buckley?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this like girl was just like, so how's Warped Tour? How's the set then?
Standard interview.
And I was like, oh my God, you're like, I would kill for this opportunity. And you're just asking the most mundane, dumb shit that you could literally ask anybody. Like it's not there. This was a waste of his time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I could do better.
Doing that early on.
Sure. I think we all are to a degree.
Like, when I was younger, I definitely didn't and I guess at the time podcast, you know, this might even have been fucking 2011 or some shit. Because I was with Keith at St. Pete Warped Tour interviewing him, and it's on YouTube somewhere. But like we were talking about Swedish Fish or some shit, and I was like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, yeah, people hate. I mean, we get a lot of it, obviously. So it's not, you know, people talk shit about. I mean, Lambgoat comments are Lambgoat comments, right? So, but like nobody. I don't think anyone, and I'm not saying this with a badge of honor or anything like that, but I don't think in the last 4 years, no one's been shit on more by the audience that visits Lambgoat than me. And like nothing for them is off the table, right? So my mom passed away 13 years ago. She gets brought up all the time. When I was dating somebody when I started the podcast, and we split up after the pandemic or during the pandemic or whatever, but like that's not off the table for them. So like all day, every day I get hit with some shit, but that's fine. You know what I mean? Like you just got to have the thicker skin because like, they're talking about you one way or the other. That motherfucker came to your YouTube channel and watched some of the video apparently.
I mean, but I'm also like, thank you for the engagement. Thanks for leaving a comment. You're driving engagement, which is also the other thing that like I find humor in now, where someone can shit on me and flame me on YouTube or whatever, but I'm like, okay, keep that interaction going. Or in the event that it's on like some other form of like my Facebook page or whatever, I almost want to be like, yeah, keep it up. That's just going to drive the engagement, make my numbers look better.
That's why you comment back. But I stopped. I didn't do the podcast for almost a year while we were, talking with Alex and in negotiations and stuff like that. Cause I didn't want to cause there were some episodes that popped, whether they're on YouTube or on the audio only. So there's videos out. I mean, there's podcasts out there with like tens, thousands, 50,000, views and stuff like that. There's also fucking podcasts out there with less than 100. And that's that's the give or take. But
can I ask you a fun question?
Yeah.
Like really really inside baseball. Isn't it interesting to see how sometimes the YouTube version of an audio episode that tanked is like way significantly better on YouTube?
Well, for the most part, our audience was YouTube and no one really listened to the download, but then it switched at some point. Well, it switched at some point because we stopped uploading the videos.
Gotcha.
And it was only audio. So, but I mean, like, even when we weren't doing the podcast, like when I started that back up, like, dude, I knew the fucking climb that we were going to have because, consistency is key. And like, we went like 60 months every week podcast, bam, 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 and a lot of those were in person in the beginning, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, we just were running it and then, to stop and then to start that back up. It's been a grind. It's been a grind, but again, you just got to fucking put that helmet on and bust through the wall and bust through the wall and bust through the wall. So like, yeah, we're doing it. It's my job. You know what I mean? And it took a while to get back into the podcasting swing of things. It was really like, and I hate doing these like this. I can't stand the audio. I can't stand the telecommunicated podcast. I much prefer with the guests on my couch at my house or something like that, but it is what it is. And we're eventually getting back to the in-person podcast, but we have.
I've actually been finding it's a little bit like people would rather do this than to do the in-persons, even when they're like minutes from my house at a venue. Like,
of course, but don't give them that option, dude. Fuck it.
I mean, it doesn't seem like it's up to me. It's up to a publicist or management or whatever.
True. I mean, I guess for that matter, we have a little bit more, leeway where we can like, hey, we got a studio or something like that. And again,
yeah,
people think Lambgoat's one thing, but it's really just like some guy's basement.
Well, I was going to say also you have an outlet, literally,
yeah.
like a news publication that makes it maybe a little bit easier to pull that string. Something I was interested in asking you about because I think it speaks to a different side of what we do. In the fact that, sometimes with doing a podcast and stuff like that, I've had it happen to me a handful of times where obviously something gets picked up and ramifications of whatever is said or whatever it does after the fact happens.
Oh,
so
this will be good.
So my question actually is this, because it's in light of some of the things that have been picked up and then the trouble it causes for the person that was on, it makes me a little bit more wary of putting something out there. Like I had Ken Susie on a little while ago. And so I had asked him about what it was like to kind of start anew in As Lay Dying. Like, you're 20 something years into your career. What is it like starting anew, quitting the thing that what it is and that you maybe have, like, you're the big voice in it or whatever. Mm-hmm. And now you're the low man on the totem pole starting all over again. And just kind of the dynamics of that. And it's like, I'm interested because I think from just a human perspective, I think it's an interesting position to be in. I also realize that potentially someone could go through from some of these other websites, because it has happened, where they'll go and go, ooh, and now here's a headline, and then all of a sudden it causes problems. So to me, what was interesting was, you haven't
see, we don't really post a lot of like things that are said on podcasts.
No, yeah. So there was an interview that a podcast you didn't air with Jordan. And so the question I was going to ask is, obviously during it, because there's episodes I haven't aired and I won't, not for probably the reason you didn't, but it's just I think there becomes a level of this is the par that something has to be at for me to put it out. And then secondly, I think as you kind of do this a little bit more and you become friends with people, you want to protect your friends that you've made, because you understand that potentially by putting this thing out, it's going to hurt them.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So my question was more how, because I think to me the episode with Jordan,
how to navigate it.
Yeah, because I feel like I feel like I already can hear the conversation potentially you and him had after you had it, where you're like, man, that was really good, and from a potentially okay, because in my head I kind of see it as some of the ones that I've done with some people where they're like, man, it was really good to get those things off my chest. It was really good that I got to talk about these, uninterrupted. I got to tell this full story, and then you're just kind of like, I don't know if we should put that out, or maybe I should edit this part out and then kind of like, okay. So to put it into a different perspective for the listener. So when I had Sergio from X Deftones on, when they were doing press, I go,
that was around the out of pocket comment, right?
Sort of. So I go, I either want the very first one he's doing, like straight up, or I want the very last one. I like whenever he's doing press, I either want the first or I want the last, because like he only was doing 2 days of press or whatever, and I was like, I either want the first or the last. I don't want to be kind of in the middle when he's maybe on a loop of like, okay, here's how I answered this question, or here's the things I'm going to try to get across. And at one point, he just randomly ventured into the shit with Deftones, and I remember, because I can see myself when we're doing this, there was a point where I was just thinking to myself, like, how the fuck did we get here? Like, how the fuck did we get here? I don't care. And then I was like, I caught a glimpse of myself looking like this, where I'm just kind of like blank faced, and I clearly am thinking, and I'm like, oh shit, I probably can convey that I'm not paying attention. And then I just kept trying to like segue out of that conversation, because I was like, we had like 45 minutes of a really great, just organic conversation. And then somehow we ended up in this like murky shit that I don't give a fuck about. And I know that like, it's going to be the like, if we're talking about this for 10 minutes, an hour and a half of it's awesome, but 10 minutes is all anyone's going to give a fuck about.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I'm cutting this out. It's just not worth it. And then somebody else who was after me got that exact same, like 10, like almost verbatim 10. I think it was, I'm not going to mention who it was, but it was someone who constantly gets headlines like that. And I was like, I think that was why it was said, because he wanted it to get out there, and he was waiting and hoping that someone on some of these would just randomly say this shit. But I think, like I said, there's a point when you do this for as I'll say, at least for as long as I have, as long as we have, where I just feel like there's a bit of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Murky water.
Yeah.
Like you don't know
well, I think it speaks to your character. I think there's just a little bit of like your character in it.
Maybe.
And so to me, I just wondered, knowing that that's something that could have really set your show apart from anyone else, because you had something that everyone, that scene that you're talking about with Lambgoat, like this news that you want to come and funnel in from yourself, nobody else is getting this, that I feel like it would have been potentially really hard to be like, do I put this out knowing what it can do for me? Mm-hmm. And what it could do for the the brand, versus what it will do to my friendship.
Right. So to be clear, I don't edit any podcast. All podcasts are
same.
Like, let's go. I never edit anything once it's on.
Unless you tell me to.
And even then, I have not. I've never really. I think recently. With the Danny Diablo podcast, he used some slang terms, and like I didn't want to edit them because I don't like editing the podcast, but I have other partners now, so they, but that's one thing. Like we're not really big into editing or censoring any kind of situation, but in that particular instance, there was like 1 or 2 words that we just wanted to kind of beep out. But that was that. It's not like a crazy, you know what I mean? So I'll also preface this. I've only not aired 2 podcasts. The second one I ever did which was with Evergreen Terrace, and that's because it was fucking horrible. They came over, and I know those guys, so it was like we were drinking, smoking, and there was 5 of them at the house, and it just was a shit show. You know what I mean? So like it didn't really make sense to put that out because it wasn't good. The other one being the Jordan podcast, and I'm not really going to talk about what was said on the podcast.
No.
It was 6 hours long. You know what I'm saying? It's a fucking.
Oh, I thought you said 3. I thought you guys said it was 3 hours.
No, that thing's 6 hours, and it's not everything. You know, we were gonna link up the next day and finish it, but Jordan and I had all intentions of putting that out. Like, you know, I'm not. And at that particular point, I should say I'm not Team Jordan or Team Keith at all.
Right.
At that point, it's like so fresh. Now, the things that I've been.
Probably the same as me.
The things that I've been privy to, the information that I've been privy to changes a little bit of that. And I mean, anyone can tell what side most people are on. The band is on one side, Andy included, and you know, they're all visible and out there. Keith, unfortunately, I don't necessarily know what's going on. I don't have a relationship really with him. And not that I'm not against having a relationship with him. I fucking grew up listening to Every Time I Die. I've had Keith on the podcast, so he's been someone I've somewhat idolized for a number of years as a vocalist, right? So I hope he's doing well, and I really hope he's successful at whatever he's doing. But so why we didn't put that episode out, obviously there's a lot of content in there that a lot of people want to hear and know. I probably had every intention of putting that out, and I probably should have put it out the next day or that night. But because we were talking on Twitter, Jordan and I sharing, you know, the podcast information and stuff like that. Word got around. Phone calls were made. You know, Lambgoat got hit up by a number of people, like Jamie Josta called Alex, you know, and fucking was like, hey, it might not be the best idea. So in the long short of it, it was my
Hold on. I'm actually going to say this. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
But because you mentioned Jamie Josta by name, there was one time there was something said in my show, and it was when I still had Snapchat, and like he and I would correspond through Snapchat, like stuff. And I was like, hey, just as a fellow person who has a podcast to somebody else, if someone says something and like you're not sure, almost the same question I just kind of sort of posed to you.
Yeah.
And I go, would you take it out or not air it? And he goes, no, they knew you were being recorded. You fucking said.
But that's totally different. Like, and I totally fucking agree with you and Jamie in that aspect. And again, I
just think it's funny he would reach out and be like, oh, maybe it's not the right time.
Again, there's different levels.
Sure.
There's different levels. At the time that this podcast was coming out, like all that shit was so fresh. Like all that Every Time I Die stuff was super fresh. No one knew what was going on really, and no one knew what the future held. So like I understand, you know, and again, there's so much more that is involved in that particular band and disbandment of that band that the casual public doesn't know, that they're going to have an idea, or they're going to feel some way about why I don't post that out, or why Jossa called or whatever. But those are all like Jossa's looking out for his friends, right? And kudos to him for doing that. And in the long short of it, if he hadn't done that, there's probably a chance the podcast comes out and the trajectory of stuff is probably different for everybody, positive or negative. Who knows what would happen, right? What I would love to see happen is all that shit get resolved and Every Time I Die get back together. Will that happen? At this point, I'm going to say no. But
yeah,
you know, it was ultimately my choice to not put that out. I talked with Jordan after the podcast, and like, you know, we kind of just toss it up to like a giant therapy session. And you know, that was me and Jordan's really like first time having like a super long conversation, and we shared a lot. He shared, I shared. So like at that particular point now, yes, we're friends, right? We know each other, blah, blah, blah. We've had in-depth conversations. We're acquaintances, friends, or whatever. It's grown to the point where we will text, and like my grandmother passed away and he texted me about that, blah, blah, blah. And so there's friendships that build over time. But at that particular point, I didn't want to ruin anything that could possibly happen in the future. I didn't want to be a part of like ruining whatever legacy Every Time I Die had at that particular, or would have at that particular point. I mean, I realized that if I put that out and whatnot, like, oh my God, Lambgoat, me, we're part of the story that's, of Every Time I Die. If they were going to do a documentary or whatever, there's no way you couldn't have that particular piece of content not in the documentary or story. So long story short, I just was like, I just don't see the benefit of like ruining Keith and Jordan's relationship for worse than what it was then or is now. I don't want to ruin the way people look at the band. You know what I mean? Because that could possibly happen. I don't want anyone to not love Every Time I Die less because of that episode. And like, it's hard for me sometimes to listen to Every Time I Die and whatnot. But I'm glad I didn't. That makes sense.
No, it does.
It would have been. You have no idea how beneficial it would have been, and no one does because no one knows what was said other than me. And yeah, it's crazy. And but anyway, I wish nothing but the best to every motherfucker in that band. Keith, Jordan, Andy, like fucking Goose and Mitch, Steve, whatever. I love all those dudes, man. And like I grew up with them basically, and I listened to them so much, watched their DVDs so much. So it was really appalling, or not appalling, but really eye-opening when all that shit hit the fan. And but it's been a wild ride. So you learn to eat stuff for the better good, even though it would fucking benefit the shit out of whatever you were doing. But you know what? I'll get that audience somehow, some way else, and it is what it is. And I'm gonna see Jordan next week when Jordan, Greg, and the boys come through with Better Lovers. And I'm really stoked on Better Lovers. I think Greg as a vocalist is one of my favorite vocalists too. Keith is also one of them, but Greg, with Dillinger and Miss Machine, I mean, fuck, that's like one of my favorite albums of all time. And Dillinger's discography is amazing. But it's great to see that go down, and it's interesting to see what will happen with that. I wish Andy was still doing some kind of things.
He posted something with Ratboy the other day, so I'm like,
I think he's fucking doing. I think he's doing wrestling, and that suits him really. Yeah. I think he's doing really, really fucking well with that, and so kudos to him. But it is what it is, man. We already get enough fucking backlash. We don't need more.
It's just a thing where I don't think sometimes, like, and this is all I'll say to this, but it's kind of to speak more of the bigger responsibility, I guess, that we sometimes have found ourselves in, unbeknownst to us, because all we wanted to do was just talk to people we were into. And because like I got to see the second date of that last tour for ETID, and then went to the season.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So there were dates for that, Keith.
Yeah, no. So like we were the second date on that tour, the Low Teens tour, or not Low Teens.
The December tour.
Radical.
Yeah.
The Radical tour. So we were the second date, and it was like the first time they played this small venue that they had been joking about, like, hey, can you stop putting us in these giant fucking rooms and put us into like that venue across town that holds like 400 people? And it was rad as shit. Now, the thing is that was interesting about it was having friends who are friends with those guys when the shit started hitting the fan and they knew I was going to the season. I remember people texting me, they're like, it's done. It's not happening. Here's some shit you don't know. It's not being said. And I remember night 2, after seeing the first night, I was like, it took like 5 songs for them to kind of like move away from their respective spots. So like Jordan was in his spot, Steve and Andy were in theirs, and Keith just kind of stayed right in the middle. And it was just like, this isn't an Every Time I Die show.
No, I think that was pre-planned beforehand though.
Yeah, I'm sure. Based on some other info I've heard about how the season went down.
Yeah.
And was a thing where I remember Ice-T performed the second night as direct support for them. And I looked at my wife and I was like, when Ice-T set's done, let's just go. And she was like, really? You don't want to stay? And I was like,
it's tough. No. It was tough. It was a whole, I mean, dude, I kind of noticed, I mean, I've said this already before, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's on your podcast, so fuck it. But I started noticing something at Furnace Fest that year when they were playing, and I was like, there seems to be like a disconnect. But I also am just a weirdo. So like,
I'm kind of the same where I'll notice it, and then I might talk to someone.
Yeah, and
after the fact, they're like, no, you're picking up on that.
Usually I'm the one guy that sees something, and then like I'm the only person, and then like I'm like, oh, I'm obviously fucked. But then they obviously catch on later on. That was one of them. And I mentioned it to the boys and I was like, cause we're all there and I'm like, dude, what is like, I don't see them together. I see them all and then one, and I'm like, I don't know. And then what cemented it was I saw them a week before, probably like days before you did, like literally right before the shit hit the fan. And yeah, Keith was just like MIA for like.
So he wasn't supposed to do my podcast that day of the show because he's like, yeah, I'll do it. And then he was like, as we're trying to figure out details, I'm like, I can tell you're not at the venue and you're not with everybody because you would know that there's no green room to speak of at this venue.
Yeah.
And just little things like that where I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. And again, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to talk to him when I did,
jealous.
You know what I mean? Because again, I was such a big fan of his and of the band. And, like I have, like, I mean, I've got his books and stuff, I mean, I got autographed books from Keith and shit. So it's like big fan. I have like all the albums and stuff, but yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It is what it is. And like the guys that are somewhat passionate about maintaining that lifestyle or role or whatever, they're doing their thing. I know Keith's doing his own thing, just not as vocal or outward with it, but hey,
maybe
to each his own. I hope they all fucking come through the end of this and reunion sometime.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah. I'm gonna kind of start wrapping up because my wife and I are gonna go to the lake because it's like 90 degrees outside still, and the sun's getting ready to go down. Go swimming. Something that I think is interesting because you were one of the first people kind of really in this space really that I was seeing where you were incorporating this into your show and even kind of when meeting some of the people in person, but your fandom of sports too. Because like I get a lot of shit sometimes. And I'm waiting for someone to comment and figure out how, like, granted, I'm not at the level anyone would do this, but I'd be interested to see if someone puts a supercut of, like, how many different, because I know how many Braves hats I have, and I always wear, like, one to correlate sort of to what I'm wearing, but it's because I have that many that I can do that with. But it'd be funny to see someone just put, like, a supercut of, like, okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, whatever. And there has been times where, like I actually ran into a dude at the Up Sulphur and like Carnifex show or whatever, Chelsea Grin, tour that was coming through, and I always see this dude wearing a Braves like shirt or a hat or whatever. So him and I got to talking, and now I see him everywhere, and either he's wearing a shirt and I'm always wearing a hat, but he was fan and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, you're probably the only one who gives a fuck, like on that level. But I do think it's interesting because I feel like growing up, it's like I always joked about how like growing up, I was big into sports, and in school, like everyone was into sports and hardly anyone was into music. Then I graduated and started living life, and everyone was into music like I was, but hated sports. So it's like I've never really had like that good cross section where people are like, dude, I fucking love bands and I love sports. And it's like, cool, let's get down.
Well, I'm a bro dude, right? So it is what it is. Like I nerd out on a lot of things, and hardcore is really good at gatekeeping. Hardcore and metal are really good at gatekeeping, and you're not really, you're not really supposed to talk about anything outside of the bands and music for the most part. You're not allowed to like anything. That's why I say like this music ruins your life. It's great, and I love it, and I want to ruin other people's lives with me. But like it does, like it's not like mainstream rock or hip hop or anything like that where like it fully takes over. Like all the hardcore metal shit takes your life over. But I mean, dude, band guys like fucking sports, band guys like fucking shoes, band guys like fashion, band guys like fucking nerdy card stuff. Like, I'm talking, I just told you, Tyler fucking from Capra loves Pokemon cards and works at a card shop and sells Pokemon cards that are graded and raw and stuff like that. And we went on a tangent because, like, dude, I collect baseball cards and also, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm passionate about that and baseball, and I'm from Jacksonville, so the Jaguars, and just so happens the Jaguars are kind of balling out now. And I've talked to Nick from Frail Body about sports. I even talked about Frank from Hatebreed and Ringworm Integrity. Yep. He's big into sports. He also is big into the fucking baseball team I love, the Tampa Bay Rays.
Well, he lives out that way.
Well, he lives on the Space Coast and not the West Coast. But yeah, so he lives like an hour and a half down from me. But he's a big Florida Gator fan, so we fucking talked about football and we talked about baseball on the podcast. And I want to talk about shit that maybe a listener like you, who's a sports person, or someone who has some other interests, right? That they may connect with the guest on that level outside of music too. But I mean, like, you know, if I didn't talk to Frank about loving the Rays, and when I went to a Rays game last year or beginning of this year, and I'm fucking sitting in the secondary, you know, level or some shit of Tropicana Field. I drove down there by myself. It's like a 3.5 hour drive. So I drove down there by myself, went to the game by myself. And then I'm sitting there and some foul ball happens in like the third inning or something like that. And it comes up and it lands literally in the section below me. And it hits some old guy in the chest. And that's how I'm like, looking down there at this guy getting like hit with the ball. And then like my eyes just kind of go up like, I don't know, like 30 yards. And there's a man sitting in a jersey that says Florida Frank, and he's tattooed, he's covered in tattoos and shit. And, you know, I've had like 2 beers by this point. I'm like, there's no fucking way. And so I just walked down there, and that's fucking Frank from Hate, Breed, Integrity, and Ringworm with Tony from Municipal Waste and their girls, you know? So like now here we are. We're all watching the fucking game, buying beers for each other. It's a great time. So yeah, sports is a big part of fucking life, and I'm going to talk about it. So they can hate it or love it. I'm passionate about it. And if someone brings it up on the podcast, I'm going down that rabbit hole every chance I can.
How do you feel about? I mean, was the trade deadline today? No,
are you talking about?
Yeah. Trade deadline's like what, in a couple of days? I think it's Tuesday. I think at this point,
August something.
Yeah, that's funny because like I always love like.
What are you asking me? What do I think about what?
How do you think your team's sitting right now? Like going into the season, like right before the trade deadline, any moves you want to see get made?
Well, so Ohtani, yeah, I was wanting to.
They took him off the table.
That's so fucking stupid that he's going to walk so fucking fast after the season. They're not going to be in the playoffs in 2 weeks, and that whole thing is for nothing. Watch, mark my words, everybody. The Angels are going to fucking die in the next 2 weeks and whatever. What do I think my team is going to be? They won 5 games in July, which is fine. That's also the All-Star break time, so I'm not really super worried about it. What I like that's going on now is that your team is slipping, the Baltimore Orioles are slipping, and the Rays are hopefully coming out of their slip. We're making the playoffs. We're making a run. I don't know what. I think we're going after Juan Soto and some other people. I don't know. I mean, I would love to rent Ohtani for fucking 2 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the Rays do have prospects deep enough to do that. But yeah, they fucked around and won a couple of games, and now they think they're going to a fucking World Series or some shit, but that ain't happening. But yeah, I mean, super pumped on it. It's the best team in Rays history. They're only going to add to it. They're only going to get better and better. It is insane to watch the Rays fan base on Twitter melt down and lose it.
Oh my God. You want to talk about like a fan base melting down? The Braves, who are, I haven't looked to see how they're doing today.
Two losses in a row, but you've lost a couple in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we've dropped, I think, like 3 of the last 4 series we've played, I think. But it's funny because like we turned that triple play and that's all everyone talked about. And then like my wife's like, "Did you see this?" And I go, "Yeah, we lost that game." Like we lost that game. Like I think it was like 5-2 or something like that. It was like we lost. I was like, so yeah, cool. Triple play hasn't happened since like 1884 with that like set of like way it happened. And I was like, cool, but also like don't give a shit. We lost the game. But I also think it's funny, like when you see fans, it reminds me so much of being a music fan where like the Braves will have like a bad game or like a bad stretch. And it's like last I checked a couple of days ago, it's like we're up on like the second team overall in the MLB. We're up like 5.5 games.
Not anymore, but yeah, you yes.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so it's like, okay, like we're still like in it.
Why are we selling the team? Like, yeah, don't sell the team.
Yeah, and they're like, fire Snicker, he can't do shit. That like someone even was like trade Acuna, and I'm like, trade Acuna, who's arguably like on pace to be an MVP year, and like and it's just like it's just so
they want to fire Cash. I'm like, Cash? What the Cash is the only motherfucking thing that's like saving this team. I mean, not only, I mean, but he's like the mastermind of like what we've got going on. Like, there's the reason why he is a winning coach. We've been in the playoffs the last 4 years in a row. I think the first
So that was my conversation with Lurk from Lambgoat. Want to thank him again for taking the time. The turnaround for this actually was really cool and was something, like I said, I find these kind of conversations really fascinating. Anytime I listen to podcasts where comedians, or I guess really because most of my podcast listening lately has been a lot of listening to a lot of the offshoots of like Bert Kreischer, Tom Segura, Andrew Santino, and Bobby Lee, and just so many of like those people where they're on each other's shows, but then when they talk to different people within the comedic realm, within the content creating realm and so forth, and just hearing them talk so inside baseball, it just gets really interesting to me when you hear people who are that ambitious and just go all in on themselves and try to figure out, or I guess sometimes they don't. And I think that's also the intrigue too of, oh fuck, when I ate shit for so long because I just wasn't fucking doing it right. And then something happened, something clicked, and here I am now. Like, it's crazy to hear some of this shit. Like right now I'm currently listening to an episode of Your Mom's House with Shaggy Two Dope from ICP. And they're just talking about like the career that the group has had and how they got into and have traversed into building their fan base and keeping it and doing Patreon stuff and live events and vlogs and all of these things. And to me, it's one of those where you just hear people not being complacent with just being successful, but parlaying it into different facets of what they do because they're interested in doing these things. And Lurk was kind of the same toward the end in our conversation where it's like, they're resurrecting, now it's been announced, but, Lambgoat Records and continuing on with that, which, I wish I had a little bit more time to kind of delve into that because now I would be like, what does that look like of resurrecting another thing that existed? Are you able to just simply piggyback off of what already existed because the paperwork and the LLCs and all that stuff are still good? Did you have to do something else? Was that a separate entity that you had to buy from in your Lambgoat acquirements? These are things where, also being into tattooing, I remember there was a story locally here of a friend that wanted to buy a tattoo shop that existed here, buy it out from somebody. And I remember the story going, yeah, I had to pay. And then the guy goes, well, you only paid for the name. I also own the brick and mortar. If you would like that is a separate entity. That's a separate deal. And at first I was like, that's really fucking shitty. Why the fuck would someone do that? However, from a business perspective, I totally understand it. It is a different thing. If I own the business, my business is one thing. The actual brick and mortar, that's under a different thing that now entitles land and probably deeds and all of these other things. And it's, it just gets interesting when you start learning about business and how businesses work and things like that it's like, I wonder, like I said, if Lambgoat Records was a separate entity and it took a little bit more time to get that off the ground, and what does that look like and how do we start it? And it's just when I see someone or a group of people, because I don't want to just say that Lurk is an individual running literally everything. Like, as you heard him say, there are people, there are plans to grow this. But when you see someone wanting to do all these things, it just kind of creates a thing where how do you decide that you want to do this? What does it look like? And even hearing the pitfalls and the successes of it all, I think it's just inspiring because honestly, at the end of the day, like, I'm doing this thing, as I said, because I kept watching people piss away great opportunities, in my opinion, to talk to people that I would love to have these conversations with these people. And it becomes this thing where there are times where when people will comment on my videos, like, oh, you should have let this person talk, or you should have done this, or you should have done this. I kind of fire back, well, then you fucking do it. Because, honestly, it comes across maybe rude because it's just in a text, and the sense of everything is lost because you can't have tone in text form or whatever. But when I say, then you fucking do it, yeah, there's a little bit of bravado behind it. Like, well, then you fucking do it. Do better than me. But there's also like the do fucking better. You fucking do it. Because it's literally how I started this. And here I am 7 years later, 400 plus episodes in, getting and having talked to so many people from so many bands and all these things, and having so many amazing opportunities that have been given to me because I just decided to do better, quote unquote. And I was reminded this week, actually, this past Monday, I went to go see my friend Matt Musty, who's been on the show, who drums for Train now, among doing so many other great things as a studio musician, and getting to like have a fun Monday outside at an amphitheater show that we have here in town, getting to see my friend play to a sold out amphitheater show and doing what he is really great at, and to see, you know, how nice and humble he is still. Like, he just loves playing drums and he loves everything about it, and he hasn't changed since I've known him. And it's wild to think that this thing happened, me taking my wife and two friends to go see this show, because I booked his band, the band he was in, 10 years ago, and I maintained the friendship. And, you know, I'm supportive of people doing what they're meant to do, the purpose of what they have. And it was just kind of a wild, serendipitous moment just to be like, I guess you just never know where any of this shit's going to take you, but you just have to fucking do it. You got to try. And this episode, that night, so many of these things are just constant reminders to just try, do something. You don't know where it'll take you. And if you don't do anything, then you'll always wonder what could have happened. And I mean, even I've started another podcast, another podcast. I now have 3 tentatively between this one and the other 2 that I'm working on behind the scenes. But my 2 friends and I prosed questions to each other for one of the episodes. And my friend had prosed, is there a moment in your life that like you think about like, this could have been a huge pivot moment in my life? And I was like, there was a moment where I could have finished out touring on an Ozfest, and then there was another tour that was booked, and I think to myself, what would my life have been like if I would have followed down that path? I think I would still probably be touring in some capacity, just because I know too many people in the world, and I think I'm pretty decent to hang out with on the road, so I feel like a lot of people would enjoy being around me. And that's really honestly what touring is. When I talk to people, is it's more about, you know, I can't tell you how many people have been like, I would rather have a dude who's a solid hang and can kind of do the job than someone who's fucking amazing at the job and is a real piece of shit. Like, being a solid person goes a long fucking way, especially in this industry. And it is something that, like, I've just been thinking a lot about that. Just the pivot moments, these moments that mean something or may not seem like they're going to mean something, but end up being, you know, connections that you make for 10 plus fucking years, or these, you know, relationships that blossom into something else. And so, you know, getting to talk to Lurk, you know, about a year after the acquisition of Lambgoat, I think was a cool moment just to kind of talk about how it happened. You know, I'm a big behind the scenes type person. I love the story of how something happens, and I'm really interested to see what they do moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, let's move forward with ending this episode. Sorry for blabbing, as I sometimes can do. If you would like to keep up with Lambgoat, honestly, simple enough. Just go to lambgoat.com. They literally usually have a link tree almost everywhere else on all their socials. It is Lambgoat Music at Facebook, Lambgoat on Instagram and Twitter. They do have a link tree on those socials where you can then go everywhere else, their TikTok, all the other stuff. If you'd like to keep up with Lurk, you can find him on Instagram and Twitter at Lurk City. Make sure you're checking out the Vanflip podcast. Always fun to listen to that and get a completely different perspective on stuff. It was really interesting to hear him interview Fox and Drew from See You Next Tuesday a while back. I could tell, I think it was literally on the day that the album was dropping, if I'm not mistaken. But the irony is that I had done a chat with each one of the dudes, so it was kind of interesting to hear them kind of do something right at the tail end of doing all of those chats with me over the course of the week and dropping all of them. And then him and Fox and Drew getting into, you know, Magic the Gathering and stuff like that, getting kind of nerdy with it. So I always love that Lurk always kind of goes in weird tangents that are different from everybody else. I'll kind of actually tease it's serendipitous timing because next week's episode, spoiler, is going to be with Nick Brooks of It Dies Today. I had seen that Lurk had gotten Brooks to do an episode of the Vanflip podcast. It's already out. Go listen to it. It's a lot of fun. But it was interesting. I actually was messaging him, both of them actually, because I'm actually doing the Brooks podcast tomorrow when I'm recording this. But it was really interesting because I was like, dude, I've been after Brooks for a while, and through Hadalak and Maruso, I figured I had an in more so than anybody to get Brooks on, and was just constantly told like, oh, he's not doing anything. He doesn't have any interest. So when I saw Lurk posted on Twitter, I was like, you motherfucker, how'd you get him? So just really awesome to always kind of see someone getting unique guests, kind of being pitched the same people that I do, and just kind of seeing where he takes it. Because, as much as I think, that's the beauty of podcasting is we all do it, we do the thing, but we do it completely different manners. We use completely different technology, software, all these kind of things. But at the end of the day, we do it because we love it. So go check out the Vanflip podcast. Love seeing what those guys do over there. And if you'd like to keep with us, you can find us simple enough, Bruce Speak Pod, on all the social media platforms. Ironically, Lurk did point out that my old website, which I long abandoned, brucespeakpod.com, has been taken over by Russians or something, which I did notice that. And I go, I wonder if that's why like the show has been charting over in Russia in the last couple of days/weeks. It's usually in the top 100-ish or so. I think peaking at like number 49, I think, a couple of days ago. So that was kind of interesting to see, but go support everyone. Speaking of supporting everyone, support our podcast sponsors, rockability.com. Head on over to their website. Use our code BREW10 at checkout. Take 10% off your total purchase order. And Starving Artist Brewery here in Michigan. Great beer, great people. Love supporting more of a local, to me anyway, thing. But if you're in the Michigan area and you are nearby, please go check them out. And for the Brutally Speaking podcast, I am John, and I'll see you all next week, as I said, with Nick Brooks of It Dies Today. I haven't done it yet, but I'm very interested in doing it. I'm sure it'll be a blast, and I can't wait to get that one out to you. Talk to you then.